Well, that didn't go quite as expected, did it? After handing the Orlando Magic wired wire losses in back to back games at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, the Cleveland Cavaliers had to take the show on the road and into enemy territory. Little did we know that they would wind up leaving their competitive spirit back in Cleveland as Orlando would snap out of their offensive funk from the first two games of this series and open an entire case of whoop ass on the Cavs. I mean, we knew Orlando would come out swinging at home, but not like this. With that being said, here are a few numbers that stood out to me from Game 3. Number 1. 8. For as much as we have discussed the Orlando Magic's inability to knock down the perimeter shot, what hasn't been mentioned enough is how badly the Cavaliers have shot from 3-point range to begin this series. Cleveland went 8 of 34 from distance in Game 3 and are now just 28 of 103 in this series. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cavs have completed just 27.1% of their attempts from beyond the arc to open these playoffs. The shot is not falling whatsoever. Everyone, with the exception of maybe Darius Garland, who was shooting 41.2%, has struggled to knock down shots in this regard. Donovan Mitchell is 6 of 24, or 25%. Harris LeVert is 3 of 10. Evan Mobley is 3 of 11. Isaac Okoro is 2 of 7. And perhaps most glaringly of all, Max Strus and George Niang, the two guys brought in this past offseason to do exactly what we are discussing, have combined to shoot 3 of 24. That's 12.5%, my friends. And while I love to say it was due to the defensive presence of the Orlando Magic, I cannot give them full credit. It's been a bit of both. Cleveland is getting a fair amount of what the NBA considers to be good looks. In games 1 and 2 combined, 54 of their 69 total 3-point looks up to that point were deemed open or wide open, to which they only completed 15. That is about 27.7%, give or take. Conversely, they shot just 4 of 15 on the other 15 that were considered to be tightly contested. They took 30 more attempts in Game 3, with only 5 being considered tightly defended. They were 1 of 5 on those. The other 29 were considered open or wide open, of which they were 7 of 29. Now, in the moment, it felt as if Orlando actually clamped down on Cleveland in this regard and consistently ran them off of the 3-point line. I mean, don't get me wrong. For the large part, Orlando did a damn fine job making sure that many of Cleveland's overall field goal attempts were contested as they hounded Cleveland at points, but they still had more than a few open looks to say the least. And you just knew the Cavs were doomed when they failed to knock down their first 7 attempts from 3-point distance. If the Cavaliers have any ambition on making it further than round 1, they absolutely must get more of these looks to fall moving forward. Number 2. 22. Orlando managed to do something previously unseen in the first two games of this series. They demolished Cleveland on the glass, winning the battle of the boards 51-32. And to put it into further perspective, Orlando's defensive rebounding totals alone eclipsed Cleveland's overall rebounding total by a margin of 5. They made sure to end many of Cleveland's possessions, something they did very well during the regular season, finishing with the NBA's second best defensive rebounding percentage at 73.7%. But even with that being the case, where they really did the most damage was on the offensive glass. Orlando pulled down 14 huge offensive boards, with 9 of those coming in the first quarter alone. I mean, they have more offensive rebounds in the first quarter than Cleveland did all game, winning the war 14-5 in this area. They would use these extra possessions to score an unbelievable 22 second chance points throughout. That's a killer and an easy way to lose games. You cannot allow your opponent to dominate the offensive glass and get those extra looks. And what you will notice about many of these is that Cleveland is still employing a heavy paint-focused defensive strategy the same way they did in games 1 and 2. The ball just bounced off the rim in a way that made many of these rebounds of the long variety, which left the Cavs out of position most of the time. Herro in particular was crashing the glass like he had a point to prove, and prove it he did. He out-muscled, out-hustled, and flat out outworked his opposition on his way to 7 offensive rebounds and 14 boards overall. Number 3. 14. I'll keep this one short and sweet. The Orlando Magic entered this series as one of the best teams in basketball at making teams pay for their mistakes. As such, they rank second in points off of turnovers. They score an average of 18.6 points per game off their opposition's miscues. Now, I made mention of this in my breakdown of this series, and I'll say it once more because it remains true. Turning the ball over against the Orlando Magic is akin to giving them free points. Cleveland handed the ball over 14 times in Game 3, to which the Magic turned into 19 points. That is 15.7% of their points total from Game 3. There was no single scapegoat in this regard, as 8 different Cavaliers turned the ball over, with 6 of those 8 accounting for 2 giveaways apiece. It is maddening to watch at times. Cleveland must protect the ball. Number 4. 83. We are now 3 games into this series, and Cleveland has failed to score over 100 points. They're averaging just 92 overall points after Game 3, which is tied with the New Orleans Pelicans for the fewest among all playoff participants. Not a place you want to be. As mentioned in this series breakdown, over the course of the regular season, the Magic held a record of 21-2 when holding opponents under 100 points. Conversely, when Cleveland was held under 100 during the regular season, they were 1 of 9. And yes, I know they didn't score 100 in games 1 or 2 and still managed to win. However, recent history seems to suggest that it's an outlier more than the norm. This all comes back to their shooting struggles, in my opinion. A whopping 36% of their points came via the 3-point shot during the regular season, which was good enough for 7th league-wide. And while they may have been middle of the pack in terms of efficiency, making 36.7% of those, they knocked down the NBA's 7th most triples per game at 13.5 trays per contest. It's pretty clear that they value the 3, and rightfully so. But all of that being said, this is an offense that still ranks 20th at just 112 points per game. They are not offensive juggernauts by any means, but if they can get the 3-ball going again, the tide and momentum of this series will turn and once again smile upon the Cavaliers. Overall, I'm still rather confident that they will get the job done. History supports this to a degree, as according to LandofBasketball.com, a total of 449 playoff series had at some point a status of 2-0, and of those 449, 416 teams have gone on to win the series. That is 92.7% of the time. Conversely, only 33 teams in NBA history have gone on to win a series after trailing 0-2. The last team to do it were the 2023 Golden State Warriors, who defeated the Sacramento Kings in 7 games after going down 0-2. Here's to hoping the Cavs respond accordingly in Game 4.